Are you looking for more distance? Well, this club review might be just for you. Welcome back to the McGolf Shop. Jim McCleary, most awarded certified club maker, club fitter, where we talk about club repairs, club reviews, and club fittings. And if you would like, subscribe, swing and hit that bell, and that way you get more of these videos when they drop. Now, I did say club review. I haven't done one in a while, and that's because it's taken me a while to get this thing where I want it. Doesn't mean that this was bad. It means I'm a bonehead when it comes to getting the right tool for the right job. Let's just say I got the right tool for the right job and made short work of what I needed to do. What are we reviewing? The Wilson D7. All right, D7. The D means distance in the Wilson category, okay? We know that there's three different categories. There's the D, the C, and the F. And they all mean different things. Right now we're going to concentrate on the D. And we're the D7. We've seen it, it's had a market improvement. The new head of R&D, Mr. Pergande, I talked to him at the PGA show, and he had this to say about the club.
The D7 iron, like anything else, it's all about distance. That D in D7 is distance. And what we're trying to do, when we think back to the start of what this project is find a great looking club that appeals to the broadest group of players that we can. So that's players of all ability, and all types, and you get sometimes a very traditional look. But it is a distance iron, so we have to focus on the distance. We get distance in two ways. One, we've got power holes. Power holes in the sole now, just the sole of the club, which is a departure from where we've been in the past, and this is the area that has the greatest need and greatest focus and the greatest result for helping to deliver that ball speed.
So the question's going to be, what do the power holes do to give you that distance?
Well, the power holes in conjunction with a very thin face allow that face and whole system to flex, and it increases the contact time of the golf ball to the face. And what does that mean? It just means that the ball releases much faster, you get a better energy return, and just like a driver, a contact time in the face, we are delivering a much better ball speed, a much greater result, and a lot greater distance for that player.
Why did we switch?
Well, it's a progressive nature. Our 4, 5, 6, 7 irons have the 3 rows. That is the biggest premium on distance that people have. And the biggest challenge for long irons is often getting that ball speed and forgiveness up in the air to get that ball hitting as far as you want it to go. As we move to those shorter irons, the scoring clubs, it's less about the absolute distance and more about knowing how far you're going to hit it. Yeah, so the start of the entire D7 line was let's look at base model shapes from scratch. We're looking to have the best possible shape for the broadest spectrum of players. It's similar to what we did in the iron, and we just started over with a good shape. So we're thinking about that consumer experience. We want them to pick that club off the shelf, set it on the ground, and like what they see. And that's the start of where the shapes came for the driver, the fairways, and the hybrids.
What you're seeing is a slightly larger face. You're seeing a much wider, or a wide sole, not a wider sole, but a wide sole. It's got the third row of the power holes in it. Now what they did is they removed them from the top, so it has a very, very clean look at address. And it looks like an iron now. If you remember, in the D series, they had 300s, 200s, 100s, and a 350. They all look kind of hybridish, maybe even a little bit clunky, and their appeal in the bag wasn't necessarily that outstanding. However, they did work, but you had to be, you had to like what you're looking at. And, purchases in golf, a large portion of them are cosmetic. So what has he done? Well, he's made the club look really nice, right? It's got a very deep cavity. You can see a lot of weight down here has been pulled down and pulled back. And what that does, it pulls the center of gravity down, so it allows you to get that higher launch. And when you get that higher launch, the loft can get stronger. Loft gets stronger, distances go further. Okay, so what are we seeing in all this? Well, we're going to go figure that out. Now, you're seeing it like this. That's because I'm a Wilson fitter. I'm also a Wilson builder. What does that mean? Well, I'm one of the few guys in the U.S. that can get it like this and build it to your spec. That gives me a slight advantage to making sure that the product fits you. I can also put in other pieces that Wilson may not carry. Although they carry quite a large selection, there are always a few out there that maybe I can get a hold of that they don't normally carry. All right, well, right now we're going to talk about the iron. We're going to talk about the iron. So if you see, it has nice chrome accents on both sides, a nice big painted area. And I don't know if you can see, but we've been using them in fittings already, and they've been kind of all over the map, but the results have been pretty good. Has the wide sole again with the extra power hole, or extra line of power holes. Nothing's there. What I like about it, there's no sharp edges, everything's nice and smooth, and you have the big giant cavity so that you can have a lot of forgiveness. The other part is that it has a pretty good size amount of offset. Now what does offset do? Well, that gives you those split seconds, and I mean splits of seconds, to go from this at impact to that at impact. That's what that's for. Now there are other things that always affect how you deliver the club to impact, but that's one that really helps you if you got nothing else going on. So we're going to put this in we're going to put a stick in it, and we're going to measure it just like we do before. You know, you're not going to get blown out of the water by the tech that's in it, because what they've done is they've invested a lot of money into sound. All right, they've invested a lot of effort into sound. You notice it's got the, there you go, it's got the carbon fiber top. It's got a, it's got a pretty nice shape at it. You know, it's nothing super round or super pearish. I say that's about right down the middle. The face on it, it's got a pretty high crown toe area, but the face here really isn't that big. All right, it's as big as the most other drivers, but when you think of a distance driver, that it's all really that big, and it just gives you that feeling of, wow, this is going to be really big. When you put it up to other drivers, in reality, it looks a little smaller. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you're looking, because of the higher amount this way looks a little shorter and gives it that smaller appearance. If you were to truly measure it, I would imagine it's the same, if not a little closer. The other part is the sole. That's not a bad looking sole, right? It's got some of the chrome accents again in it, the shinier black paint with the flat black to have all that stuff stand out. It's a good look, and this is the market improvement. Way to go, Mr. Perganti. That's really the improvement for Wilson, right? This has always been the weak point for Wilson. They've been outstanding in irons, but their wood program, although the performance may have been there, the cosmetic needed some help, and this really looks good. And this isn't the only one, right? The Cortex, driver, the C300, they're all good-looking clubs, right? And they all have their category in which they perform. And this is no different, all right? This is the D7 in their distance category. Now, what I've found out is, if you guys haven't figured it out lately, that Gary Woodland is under contract with Wilson. And Mr. Woodland is playing basically one of these with certainly a more upgraded shaft than the one that would come stock. The one that comes stock with this is the UST Helium, all right? The idea is lightweight, so you create a little more head speed and it gets out there. That's always a really good premise, but when you go light, then we get hung up on swing weight. In order to get swing weight, you just add length to the club, and it's not my idea that swing weight, you use length to get to swing weight, because the longer the club gets, the harder it becomes to hit. And that's not what I'm about. I want you in the middle of the club face, right? I can shorten a club, and if you're in the middle of the club face, you're going to hit it further. It's just how it's going to be. So as anything else, nice club head, looks really good at address. I do like the black paint. They've started using blue accents instead of what would be that traditional Wilson red, and it's a market improvement. So now what we're going to do is we're going to shaft it up. We're going to test some specs, just like we always do, and then we're going to go fit. So let's go right along. saw me measure the iron and the hybrid. Now the reason why you didn't see me do the driver is because I have the driver in head form only because I screwed onto different shafts. So what I did with that one is I just measured the loft and lie angle as it was when it was in just an aftermarket club that I had. I had a 10.5 driver head and I had a 10.5 reading, so that was pretty good. Then I go to the Wilson site to check for the lie angle and any of the others. So what this is supposed to be is a 45 3/4 inch driver at D1 or 2, 58 degrees and whatever that loft is. I got a 61. And that's a fairly significant change, and it could be because the bottom of the head has got a fairly significant radius, and depending on where you get it, that could give you your 2 or 3 degrees. However, this does play like a more upright club, so if you're fighting kind of a slice-ish kind of thing, it might actually be a pretty good thing for you. So loft's good, and if you have it custom built, certainly all the rest of the parameters are good. Just got to look at the lie angle. The radius isn't necessarily a bad thing, particularly for those folks that push down on the club when they go to set up and the toe gets up in the air. There's not going to be a whole lot there to drag, and it still look good because it's still facing you, right? That's the driver. Now onto the iron, right? The iron. So what did I find? Well, I found it is a 7 iron. All right. So what did I find? Keep in mind this is a 7 iron. So I got 37.5 inches. I got 28 degrees of loft. I got 61 degrees of lie with a D2 swing weight, and it flexed out at 3.0. Now what is it supposed to be? Well, it's supposed to be 37.5 inches. It's supposed to be 28 degrees of loft. It's supposed to be 62 degrees of lie angle, and it's supposed to be a D2 swing weight. So just touches off, right? Just touches off. Nothing that couldn't be the way that it was measured, and so it is what it says. Well, I'm gonna tell you what I think about all that in the review. All right, the hybrid. Well, the hybrid, 40.5 inches, D1 swing weight, 4.5 flex, 22 degrees of loft, 63 degrees of lie angle. That's not uncommon, right? That's not uncommon. Now, what's it supposed to be? Well, it's supposed to be 40.5 inches long. It's supposed to be 22 degrees of loft. Outside of that, I can't tell you because the website didn't really give me all what I needed to know. And I've already sent Wilson an email to that effect, so hopefully they get that fixed. Now, based on what I know about this stuff in previous models, the lie angle is very, very close. The swing weight would be very, very close because it's using a recoil shaft, so the lofts or the flexes are going to be very, very true, and the 22 is on. It's on the club, so we certainly know what that is. Now let's go find out what we did with them. All right, welcome to the Real Testing powered by FlightScope, and what we are going to look at is all 3 of the major part of the clubs. We're going to look at the driver, we're going to look at the hybrid, and we're going to look at the iron. Now keep in mind the D7 is the distance model for Wilson. So we should see stronger lofts and pretty good distances. Now the funny part is when it comes to hybrids, loft is loft. So we're going to see how that turns out. And if we look at it, I'm swinging with the driver, I'm just shy of 103. With the hybrid, just shy of 197, and then 93 with the 6 iron. This is a D7 6 iron with a KBS TGI graphite 70 shaft in it. Now going forward, I think I'd probably like the 90 a little bit better, but the 70 wasn't a really bad shaft. The hybrid was totally stocked. It had the recoil hybrid shaft in it, which I'm totally behind. It is a very, very nice setup. The Wilson D7, Since it's in my fitting system, I attached an Acra FX 2.0 in the red. So what did we find? Well, just starting right out, overall about 240 to 250 with that, hitting it what I would say low in the good range. And then the hybrid 210 to 232, the iron just shy of 190 to 205, and it looks like it's down the middle. So let's take a look and see what they look like when they fly. All right, what we're looking right here is the irons. We're going to make them all fly. Again, I got some to the right, some to the left. That's the reason why the average looks so good. And if we look what the numbers truly were, I had 180 was my low, almost 200 was the high, with the average just above 185 and running out to just shy of 200. So you're seeing the numbers. The smash factor with a 6-iron, that's really pretty good considering that one was probably the worst, and as you can see, it gave me the worst numbers. I'm also hitting it with an angle of attack that's either very negative or just in the average negative, but not too bad. So it looks like maybe the weight is allowing me to do a pull or a pull fade, something along that lines. End result, 188, 205. All right, let's go check out the hybrid. So we got the hybrid. And the hybrid on the low end, 205, 207. High end, 212, 218. Low end on the total, about 219, with the high end being between 245, 252. Now, normally those are because the machine will see that it's got some low roll. And if you look, that's what that's showing. That's extraordinarily low. These might be a little low with some low spin, hitting bullets maybe, with those being a little more traditional. So if you use this and you see about a 10, 11 yard rollout, that's pretty good. And you see where we have lower spins and you're getting just this ton of rollout. Now, can that happen? Sure, but that's all based on conditions, right? It's all based on conditions. Right now, it's all wet and rainy and muddy here. We would never see that. We probably wouldn't see this. But on a good day, a 10, 15 yard roll. So all to the right, they're all kind of pull shots, but not too grossly out of line. I mean, I could play them. They're not the perfect down the middles, but they tend to work. All right, now let's go take a look at the driver. All right, let's see how they fly. So you see here all a little bit to the right again, just like the hybrid. Some are what you'd see bending off to my left. That would be a bit of a pull fade. That being the last one. These are the third and the fourth one, and that's the first one, and I can show you. There's the fourth one. There's the third one getting down the middle. There's the second one, and then there's the first one. So a little bit over it. Basically, I started getting onto it a little bit, and that's when you see some the bigger numbers. So 230, 251 at the first, and 244, 263 at the end. That could be just a factor of getting warmed up. All right, the last thing I look at when I go through here is how's my acceleration profile. With the iron, got through it pretty good. That's kind of a good line that we're looking for. You see a little bit of a dip getting through it with the stock shaft, and with the FX doing pretty good. That last one was a little squirrely. Kind of a tip for you guys, when you see something like this is a loading, unloading, and loading again. Is that necessarily bad? It just depends on the result. Sometimes people do that. But as a whole, I'm getting through it. So I'm liking what I'm seeing so far from the club. Okay, if you've been watching, you've been seeing kind of cut-ins throughout the video, and that's because it was supposed to be just an iron hybrid review, and I've just added into the driver because we're into the throes of the season and might as well just get it all done so you get it out there and you can make an informed decision going forward. Now, we're going to start with the iron, the D7, all right? Definitely the D is for the distance, wide sole club. It has 3 power holes for the top end, 2 towards the middle clubs, and 0 at the very bottom. Has a lot of offset, right? Has a lot of offset. That might not be such a bad thing for a lot of people, all right? And as you can see, it looks pretty good behind the ball. The top line is a little thick, and again, but that tends to be standard issue when you're talking about distance or very forgiving clubs, the top line tends to be thicker. All right. The face, the cavity, and the face are, I would say, this is what you would call a bit of an oversized club. It doesn't look gross. It's just a bigger cavity. Back to the sole. It's got a wider sole, so if you're a guy that tends to get stuck, this is something that is certainly going to bounce you out. All right, you're not getting stuck in this one. To the point, if you're a scooper and you try to scoop the back, you're, or a picker to be more precise. If you're a picker, you might hit the back end and it'll throw you forward, and it may not feel just as good as you think. So, if you're a picker type guy, you might want to look at this. But if you're a guy that's slamming the ground, chances are you're really going to dig on this one. All right. Now, keep in mind, these are strong lofts, right? We're talking a 26, 28 degree 6-iron, where most of that was just a 5-iron not too long ago. And so, hit a pretty far 6-iron. I was quite happy with the performance. Everybody likes hitting it longer. But then you got to start wondering what you're going to do when you get under 100 yards. So just keep that in mind if you're a stronger golfer and you think that'd be a lot of fun to hit. The feel from this, I did not feel harsh at all. I thought it looked, I thought it felt very good. You could tell when you were off center, and you could certainly know it felt really, really good when you were on center. So if you're considering a distance club, certainly one to look at. All right, the hybrid, the D7 hybrid. All right. Again, we're giving kudos to Wilson and the new R&D crew. The wood program that was always historically weak is really coming on with a vengeance. If you look at this top. All right, that's a pretty nice looking top. You see all the reflection of all the light that's in it. All right, and it's called the React. Right, it's got the React, and I believe it has more to do with what's on the crown than into the face. Now, probably that's going to be more for the fairway wood and the driver than it is the hybrid. But what you're going to see in here, it's a Carpenter steel. I think it's 455. 455 Carpenter steel. Very, very hard. Very, very hard. Always a popular item to put into the face of a hybrid. And then you make it thin so you get a little bit of a bounce. And then it's a weight versus performance issue. And this thing's, you saw the numbers, turned out to work out pretty good. Did it with a recoil regular flex. Could be that's the reason why I was closing it down. All right, this is a recoil 460. The 460s have been a really popular shaft to put in a lot of hybrids here as of late. Hybrid recoil and UST have been celebrating, they've had a very long run with the recoil line. It's been a very, very good shaft, and hence you're still seeing it in some performance-type clubs. Wilson has a wide variety of these hybrids. It's just not 2, 3, and 4. You need to go to the website and check it out. But, it is a very solid feel. Prime motivator through the wood category was sound. Okay, was sound. Didn't want that big, high, tingy sound. You get that ping or the really high, like tin can sound. They were trying to drive themselves away from that. And it's very obvious in this and in the fairway woods. Although I didn't hit one, I had a couple guys try them out, and they, the first thing that I got from them was, hey, that looks really good at address, and then they would hit it, and they weren't taken aback by the sound. The other one is that it's light. All right, when you see companies claiming distance clubs, chances are that they've made them light, they've made them long, and they've maybe even give you a little more loft. Well, this is no different. This one is light. This is an aerodynamic. Now, I did measure it, and yes, very much it is light. However, I kind of stumbled onto the Gary Woodland thing where he's playing something along this lines. I'm sure it's heavier than standard and playing with, I believe, an Acra shaft in it. So that's the reason why I kind of toyed around with that. And the results were pretty good. I have to say, the results were pretty good. Now, back to the crown. You add the crown, the sandwiching, right, for sound. Again, drivers can really, really be, bang, and just give you that awful sound. This is a very, what I would call almost muted sound. It's very quite quiet, very solid sounding. And I don't know if you can see. You see that? You saw those 5 hits I had? Well, that's where they were. All right. And the thing is, you could tell when you were off center. That, to me, that's a big deal, right? You could tell when it was off center. So it has a pretty good look. I mean, it had a good look at address. It's very tall. It's scary tall in the face. When we set the ball behind it, there was a lot of room to go up, so you could tee the thing up pretty good. So what does all this mean? Who would this be for? The recommendation, all right? Number 1 in irons. I hate the fact that they're extra half-inch long. You key up in a 5-iron. You know, most 5-irons 38 inches long. All right, give or take a half an inch based on the person. But to say that you have a much longer club than your competitor and you've made it a half-inch long, jacked up the loft, basically what we're doing is we're saying we've taken a 5-iron, we stamped a 6 on it, and now we're making it longer. I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. Normally, because when you make clubs longer, you create inconsistencies, right? You create an inconsistency. Now, what I do like is the fact that since I'm a fitter of that kind of variety, Wilson has seen fit to work with me, that I put them in systems like this with my little fitting connector, and I put them in regular length, and people are bashing it. So the quality of hit, in my opinion, is much more important than the fact that you just throw one way out there. I don't understand why people do that. And every company is guilty, all right? Not just Wilson, everyone. And so if you go out there and you go, man, it's supposed to be a distance club, but I keep seeming to hit it fat, choke down. All right, just choke down and watch it go. And when your quality of your hit goes up, the ball is going to fly further, and you're going to like it. All right, off my soapbox for that one. So, is it a bad club for being long? Yeah. All right, but is it a really good club when you put the proper length into it? Also a yes. Keep that in mind. Now, hybrids. I think hybrids are pretty much fairly standard. The 40 and a half. Maybe just 40, it might be a half-inch over, right? And that could be the reason why I'm pulling around a little bit. Maybe just a half-inch, and that's one of those things I probably ought to go test even more. And then this thing was spec'd out at 45 and 3/4 inch, where everybody else was 45 and a half. So again, a little bit longer to give you a little bit more oomph. And as most golfers' attitudes are, right? When you go out there and you're talking about that one drive that you hit, well, I don't give a darn about that one drive. I want to hear about all 18 or all 16 or all 14, depending on the course that you play. And this could provide that with the proper shaft, the proper length, the proper fit, right? It's on tour, and I just hit it pretty good for me, so why couldn't you with the regular stuff? Now, the helium shaft that this thing comes with is a very, very good shaft. But at 45 and 3/4, unless you're like 7 foot tall, chances are that's not the right length. All right. Again, I'm here to tell you, if you're a 6-footer like me, choke down on that thing at least an inch, and then go out and swat it, and then see what happens. Quality hit. You get into this part of the club, boom, off it goes, and the sound is going to be very, very nice. Okay. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of that. I'm just telling you, basically like it is. All right, it's a little long. It's a great design. It looks really good at address, and the performance is there. So you just got to make sure you got your proper length and your lie angles, and I think you're going to be in good shape. So again, if you like what you saw, like and subscribe if you would. And as usual, let's see your scores go low.